Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this poncho right here. It does have a hood, which I'll show you in the back here. Put it on up over here so you can see it. But there's the hood on it. These pom-poms or tassels are just for show. They serve no purpose. They're just sewed on. That's something that you can determine if you want to do or not. Now this poncho is a one size fits most, so you can adjust the length if you want. But actually, other than that, it's pretty easy, so let's go ahead and get started on it. Okay, for this project, I am using Red Heart Super Saver Stripes, which just is a 100% 4-ply acrylic yarn. Now you don't have to use this brand. Any 4-ply yarn will work, but the color that I use is called Latte Stripes, and I believe there are 236 yards per skein, and I used 6 skeins, but I didn't have enough fringe to finish the back of my poncho. So if you want to make it without fringe, 6 skeins will be enough, but if you want to put fringe on it like I did, you're going to need 7. Not all of 7, but you're going to need 7. But also, you can adjust the length, because if you look at my mannequin, she's 6'1", so she's tall. And you might want to make yours shorter, and then 6 skeins would probably be enough for you. But anyways, for when you see on my mannequin, I used 6, and I didn't have enough to finish the back with the fringe, so I had to get another skein. And then I'm going to be using a K, which is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. Since I ran out of yarn, I'm going to show you in a different color how to start. Okay, you want to start off with a chain of 96. And then you want to follow your chain down without twisting it. You want to slip stitch into the first stitch way down here to form one large ring. Just like that. Now this is a 4-point poncho. 2 points are the point in the front and the point in the back are going to be sharper than the 2 points on the side. So they're going to be more pointed, so they'll go down lower. So we're going to start off with a chain of 5. And now that chain of 5 counts as a double crochet with a chain of 2. Just like that. And now I'm going to go back into that same stitch that I just slip stitched into and do a double crochet. So right back in it. And that'll form our first point. And this is one of the points that's going to be on the side, like go down the arm. So that's like a double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next 23 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, once you get your 23 double crochets done, now we're going to form our second point, and this is going to be one of the sharper points that's going to go down the front of you or the back of you. So what we're going to do in this one, we're going to put 2 double crochets into the next stitch. There's 1 and 2, and then we're going to chain 2 and put 2 more double crochets in that same stitch. Like that. And now I'm going to start off putting 1 double crochet again into the next 23 stitches. Make sure you get this first one here. Sometimes it gets hidden. So 1 double into the next 23 again. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Okay, I did my 1 double crochet in the next 23 stitches. Now we're going to do another point, and this is a point that's not going to be quite so sharp. It's going to go down the side of your side of your arm. So it is just 1 double crochet, a chain of 2, and another double crochet into the same stitch. So that was double, chain 2, double into the next stitch. Now again, it's going to be 1 double crochet into the next 23 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, I did my 23 stitches again. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to make my sharper point by putting 2 double crochets into the next stitch, a chain of 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Like that. And now I'm going to finish. Though you should have 23 stitches left until you get back to the beginning. So go ahead and put 1 double crochet in your last 23 stitches. Okay, when you made it back to the end and you had 23 stitches left, what we're going to do is end by slip stitching into the 3rd stitch of our beginning chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the 3rd one, and that'll end round 1. And now we can look at what we got here. So when you look at it, you can see that there are 4 points on this poncho. These 2 points here, the ones that have 2 double crochet, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets, are what I call the sharper points. They're the ones that's going to be in the front and the back of you. These 2 points that are just 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet, they're going to go down your arms. Now since these have 2 extra double crochets than the ones on the side, they're going to come down further. So therefore they'll be sharper. That's just what I say. And these will still come down, but not as far as the ones in the front. Okay, so we're going to start again with round 2. We're going to slip stitch 1 time. We're always going to slip stitch right over here to your first chain 2 space, and we're always going to start with a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That counts as a double crochet plus a chain 2, and then we're going to put 1 more double crochet right back into that chain, into that same chain space. So that's our point right there. Now we're going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip this first stitch and double crochet into the next. And then I'm going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next. And I'm going to repeat this until I get to my next point. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next. Okay, I'm coming up on my next point. I did a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next. Now you can see I'm at my point. And if I was to chain 1, there would be no more stitches to skip. So I'm not going to chain 1 when I'm at my sharp point. So I did a double crochet here. Don't chain 1 because you don't have no stitches to skip. We're just going to go directly into the chain 2 space and do our 2 double crochets, chain of 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Sorry if I'm shaky. I drink like 2 cups of coffee. I'm sensitive to caffeine, but I still drink it all the time. And now I'm just gonna start again. Since this one right here we didn't chain one, we're not going to chain one, we're just going to put 1 double crochet into the next. That way it matches the other side like that, so both sides match. Now we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next, and you're going to repeat this until you get to your next point. Chain 1, skip 1, double into the next. Okay, I'm coming to my next point, and this point is not the sharp point, it's the side point. So I double crochet, chain 1, I'm going to skip 1, double crochet in the next. And now if you look, I do have one I can skip before I hit my chain 2 space. So I'm going to chain 1, skip that one, and then I'm going to work my 1 double, chain 2, 1 double in this space. Since I have one to skip, I can do my chain 1. So always your points that aren't as sharp are always going to have one before it that you skip. And then you just chain 1, and then you skip it, and then start working directly into the chain 2 space and form your point. You do 1 double crochet, a chain of 2, and then 1 more double crochet like that. And since we skipped one here, we're going to skip this one, so we're going to start by chaining 1, skip that one, and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, double into the next, chain 1, skip, and double. And we're going to do this until we get to our next point. Okay, I'm coming to my next point, which is my sharper point, and I did a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet right here into this last stitch, and now there's no more to skip before I get to my chain 2 space, so I don't chain 1. I just go directly into this chain space and do my 2 doubles, a chain of 2, and 2 more doubles into that space. And then I go ahead and copy the other side, so I just put 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next. And we're going to repeat this until we get back to the beginning. Okay, I'm coming to the end. I did my last double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 because I have 1 here to skip, and I'm going to end with a slip stitch into the third stitch of my beginning chain 5, and that'll end around 2. So that's what it's starting to look like. So on round, when you do these rows where you chain 1 and skip 1, the sharper points, remember, you never chain before you go into the chain 2 space. And then the points that are not so sharp, right here on the sides, you always chain and then you work into the chain 2 space. It may sound confusing, but actually it's really pretty easy once you get to going on it. Now for round 3, again, we're just going to slip stitch into our first chain 2 space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's our double crochet plus our chain 2. Go right back into the chain space and double crochet. So that is our first point. And now it's 1 double crochet in every single stitch and 1 double crochet in every chain 1 space. So go right here to the very first double, and double crochet into it, and then 1 double right through the chain space, 1 double into the next stitch, 1 double right through the chain space, 1 in the next stitch, 1 right through the chain space, double into the next, and then right into the chain space. And I'm going to repeat this until I get to my next point. Okay, I'm coming to my first point, which is my sharp point here, and I'm just going to put 1 double crochet in each of these stitches until I get to my chain 2 space, like that. And then I'm at my chain 2 space, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and then 2 more double crochets into that chain space. And now I'm going to start working 1 double crochet again in every stitch and 1 double in every chain space. So I'll start right here, this very first stitch. Make sure you get it. Sometimes it hides. That, and then 1 in the chain space, 1 in the next stitch, 1 in the chain space, 1 in the next stitch, until you get to your next point. Okay, I'm coming to my next point, which is my short point, or my not so sharp point. See it right there. Make sure you put 1 double into the next stitch. It's actually the stitch of the point. And then in the chain 2 space, we put 1 double, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet. And then we're going to start again. Put 1 double into the very first stitch, 1 double in the next chain space, double in the next stitch, double in the next chain space. Repeat this till you get to your next point. Okay, I'm coming to my next point, which is the sharp point. And when you get to the sharp points and you look at them, there's always going to be, when you repeat this round that we're doing right now, there's always going to be 3 stitches on each side of the point that doesn't have a chain space in between them. And it'll be like that every time you repeat this round 3. There'll always be 3 stitches with no chain space in between them. That way you know you're doing it right. So just go ahead and put 1 double crochet in each of those stitches. And then when you get to your chain 2 space, it's 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 doubles. And then it's 1 double crochet in each of those next stitches here, next 3 that don't have no space in between them. And then we just start again. 1 double into the next chain space, 1 double into the next stitch, 1 double into the next chain space, 1 double into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat this until we get back to the beginning. Okay, I'm coming to the end here. Double crochet into the next chain space, and you want to remember to put 1 double crochet in this last stitch. It's actually will always be the stitch that we slip stitched the round before, so sometimes it's kind of tough to get into the top of it. Make sure you get that one just like that. And now we're going to end by slip stitching into the 3rd stitch of our beginning chain 5. And that's it. It's just a repeat of rows 2 and 3 now until you get the poncho as long as you want it to be. Now if you look at it now, I'll lay it out here, you can see the sharper of the points now. That's how it's kind of going to lay. But now you just repeat 2 and 3. So remember, we always start by slip stitching over, and then we always start with a chain of 5, and then 1 double crochet back into that same chain space. And now, since this is one of the not so sharp points, we always chain 1 and skip the first stitch and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. So we just repeat what we did on round 2. These rows work up pretty quick. Now when you make it to your next point, which is the sharper point on this round, where you do the skip 1 stitch, chain 1, and skip 1 and double crochet into the next. And now remember, there is no more stitches to skip when you're on the sharp point, so you don't chain 1. You just go directly into it and do your 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, and you don't chain 1, you just go directly into the next one and double crochet, and then you chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in the next. And that's what makes those 3 stitches like I talked about a while ago on each point. 3 stitches on this side and 3 stitches on that side before you start doing your chain spaces. So I'm just going to repeat rounds 2 and 3, or you just want to repeat them until you get your poncho the length that you want it to be. Okay, I went ahead and did a total of 29 rows, and you can do more or less. That just depends on how long you want your poncho. And at the end, I just went ahead and slip stitched into the 3rd stitch of my beginning chain 5, and then I tied off. Now I'm going to put a hood on it. So if there's a side that you like better, you like drapes better, whichever side you think looks better, you want to put it facing you. Now remember, one point is sharper than the other, so you want to make sure the sharpest point is the front of your poncho, like right here. And these 2 shorter points, they're the sides. So the sharpest point where we put the 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, that's going to be the front. And then whichever side you like better, put it facing you right now, and we'll start the hood. Okay, let me get this folded up a bit so we can see what we're doing, because it's big. Okay, you're going to need a couple stitch markers. I'm just going to use a piece of yarn. I can usually find scraps of yarn on the floor. Okay. Right up here, you will see where we put 2 double crochet, chain 2, or the 2 double crochet and then the chain 2 and then the 2 double crochet right there in that stitch. Count over, not counting this one, 6 stitches, and put the stitch marker in the 6th stitch. So 1, don't count this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put the marker in that 6th one, and then we'll do the same for the other side. So don't count this middle one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put it in the 6th one on this side. So now you'll have 11 stitches between the stitch markers. And you want to count and make sure, not counting the stitch marker spaces, you'll have 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we'll go ahead and start in this one. So I guess you don't even really need your stitch marker there anymore. That's just to kind of show you where to mark them off at. So we're going to start our yarn right here in this first stitch where the stitch marker is. So go right in there and start your yarn. And I'm just going to go ahead and take that first stitch marker out. Now I still have the other one in because that's for when we get back around. So what we're going to do is chain 1. Now we're going to go right back into that same stitch that we started in and put a single crochet. And what we need to do is have 17 single crochets in a row, and that is counting this very first one. So go ahead and work along until you get 17. So there's 1, 2, 1 in every stitch, 3, 4, 6, 7. Okay, once you make it and you did your 17 single crochet, you will see we're near where we did the point that's not real sharp. The 1 double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. We're actually the stitch right before it. So what we're going to do is half double crochet 3 stitches together. So the one before this and this point and the one after it. So what we're going to do, half double crochet 3 together, or a half double crochet decrease is worked over 3 stitches. So you can call it either or. But we're going to yarn over and go into this stitch right here and draw up a loop. And now we're going to yarn over and go into this is where we started, so you got to it kind of looks funny, but go into that stitch. It's like where we slip stitched and started, and draw up a loop. And then yarn over and go into the next stitch, which is the one right next to it. Yarn over, go into it, and draw up a loop. And you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 7 loops. And that is, you half double crocheted 3 together. Now what I'm going to do is put 1 single crochet into the next 10 stitches. So I'm just going to jump to the very next one right here and single crochet like that. What that did is kind of made this point a little bit more even with the rest of it. That way there's not kind of a dip there. So the next 10 stitches we single crochet. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're working on towards the back, and you see the back has this big dip in it, and we want to try to straighten that out. So we just did our 10 single crochets. Now we're going to do 1 half double crochet into the next 5 stitches, half doubles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to work 5 double crochets in a row. So 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to work 1 triple crochet into the next stitch, triple, and now you can see we're at the point again. So we're at 1 stitch before it, here's the point, and then 1 stitch after it. We're going to do a triple crochet 3 together. So it's kind of, we're putting all 3 of these stitches and making it into 1. So we're going to do a triple crochet 3 together here over this stitch, the point, and then 1 after. So we're going to yarn over twice for the triple crochet 3 together. Go into the next stitch. So it's the one right before the point, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on your hook, and yarn over and go through the next 2. Now we're going to yarn over twice again, and then we're going to go into the stitch, that's the point, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through the next 2 loops on your hook, and then we're going to go into the one after the point. So we're going to yarn over twice, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through the next 2 loops on your hook, and you'll have 4 loops that remain. Yarn over and go through all 4 loops. So what that did is it took all 3 of those stitches and made it into one. And now we're going to put 1 triple crochet into the next stitch. Triple, sorry, yarn over twice for the triple. Like that. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 half double crochet into the next 5 stitches. Half doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that should have brought you 1 stitch before your point, and it did. So here's our stitch before. Now what we're going to do is the same thing we did on the other side. We're going to do a half double crochet 3 together. So we go into this stitch here, and then the point, and then the one after. So we yarn over, go into the stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, go into the stitch, that's the point, drop a loop, yarn over, go into the stitch after the point, drop a loop, 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through all 7, like that. And now we're going to put 1 single crochet. You should have 17 stitches left until you get to your stitch marker. So you just want to put 1 single crochet into the next 17 stitches. Okay, now I made it to my stitch marker, and your 17th single crochet should be the one with the stitch marker. So go ahead and go in that, and now we can take that stitch marker out. Now you should have a total now of that row, not counting these here, but counting from where we started, 79 stitches. Now when you flip it to the back, you will notice that it's still a little V'd, but it's not bad. And it's going to be good enough that we can start just working rounds of double crochet to make the hood, or rows of double crochet, I guess. So what you want to do is go back to where you started, and so the hood's really easy now at this point. It's just back and forth rows of double crochet. So you start with a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you just turn your work. Now starting in not this very first stitch, because that chain 3 is acting as that stitch, but the next one, double crochet, and then it's 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get to the other side. So no more decreasing or anything like that, no more crocheting 3 together. It's just 1 double crochet in every stitch. And when you get back around to the other side, you should have 79 double crochet, and that's counting that chain 3 because that's acting as our first double crochet. So go ahead and work 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get back over to the other side. Okay, I've made it around, and my 79th stitch goes into the very first single crochet we did over here. Not the chain 1 that we did in the beginning, but the very first single crochet. And now all we do is chain 3. Maybe if I can get that. There we go. Chain 3, which counts as our first double, and turn our work, and we just keep repeating that. So now it's just rows of double crochet. So not this one here, the next one, double crochet, and 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get back to the beginning, or back around to the other side. And when you get back around, you still should have 79 stitches. So we're just going to keep repeating this, rows of double crochet, until we get the hood high enough to cover our head, you know, and leave a little bit extra room so it's not real tight on your head. And then we'll sew it together when we get it that tall. So I'm going to continue doing my rows of 1 double crochet in every stitch, back and forth. At the end of every row, I should have 79 stitches, and that's counting that chain 3 that we do at the beginning of every row. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll let you know how many rows I do total for my hood here in just 1 second. Okay, I've got my hood part of the way done. What I've done was a total of 23 rows, and that is counting that very first row where we started with single crochet and then we did doubles and half doubles and triples. 23 counting that, but 22 rows of just regular 1 double crochet in every stitch. And then when I get to the end, that was like a whole skein of yarn too. What you want to do is tie off and leave a long tail, a couple feet, 3 feet probably, and we're going to use that to sew the top together. So I'm going to use my yarn needle in my long tail here. Now I'm going to make, okay, if you put the hood together, it's going to get sewn together at the top like this, and the front will be open. I'm going to flip it wrong side out so the seam will be on the inside. So just flip it like this. So now you can see it's wrong side out. If you don't do it that way, it's not really that big of a deal, but flip it wrong side out, and then line up your pieces. And I'm going to use my yarn needle, and I'm just going to start grabbing stitch and sewing it together. Just sewing my top together. So what I'm doing is, you can see my stitches here. I'm going to grab a stitch, the front loop of this stitch, and then the back loop of the stitch on the opposite side, and sew. You could slip stitch this together too if you wanted to. And I'm just going over. So I'll grab the front loop here, the back loop here, sew it together. And I'm going to do this all the way down. Front loop here, back loop here. And if you wanted to go through both loops, you could do that too. It's not really going to make that much of a difference. And I'm going to do this all the way down until the whole top of my hood is sewn up, and then I'll flip it back right side out. Okay, once you get all the way to the end, you just kind of weave your tail in, and then you can flip your hood. I gotta cut that tail off, but I can't find my scissors. Flip it right side out. I gotta hide some tails, but now your hood's all sewn up at the top. So now you got your hood. Now what I'm gonna do is just clean up the edge of the hood by going around right here at this V, and then up around the hood, and then back down with some single crochet. So grab my yarn, and I'm going to start right here in this stitch. So I'm going to go in and chain 1. Now I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Now I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of these stitches here. We're working down towards the V. And when I get to that V, I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in it. I'm not going to do any special decreases or anything in it. And I'm going to continue working back up until I get to the sides of my hood. Okay, now what I'm going to do, now it's going to be kind of hard to see where your stitches need to go because you're working on the sides of these doubles and the sides of these chain 3s. But I'm going to go ahead and put 1 stitch in here. And I always just kind of say to every double crochet, I put 2 single crochets. That's just kind of, it doesn't have to be that way. Just kind of evenly space out your single crochets the best that you can. So the number that you have in the end is not going to have to be exactly the same that I have. Just so it's cleans up these edges and it kind of evenly spaces out your single crochets. And I'm kind of going through the stitch like that. And that's going to clean up the edges. So I'm going to continue working, just evenly spacing out single crochets the best that I can. And remember, your number's probably not going to match my number. And it doesn't have to. It's not going to make no difference if it doesn't. So kind of like that. So I'm going to keep doing that. And then all the way up the side, and I'll meet you up here when we get to the seam at the top. Okay, when I make it up here to the seam, all I'm going to do is just jump over it. So I'm not going to put no stitches right here. And just continue spacing out my single crochets. I try to get 2 to every double, but it doesn't always work out like that. So just do your best to space them out until you get back down to where you started. Okay, when you make it back around to your starting point, just go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your first single crochet, not that chain 1, but the first single crochet, and then you can tie that off and hide that tail. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I gotta find some scissors. So just clip it and hide your tail. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a tassel, or how I make them. If you know a different way to make them, you can make them anyway, or if you don't want to put tassels, you don't have to. But I just grab it in my hand and I wrap it around my elbow and my hand. I guess there's not a lot of room to show you, but that's how I do it. And I keep track of how many times I go around. That way each tassel is about the same size. So I know you can't see it very well, but you could use a big book too, but this is how I usually do it. And I went around about 30 times. So I'm going to lay it out like this. And that's what I have. Just like a big loop. Now you're going to need another piece, couple strands of yarn here to tie it up with. So just cut one off here. And then what I'm going to do is I take it and I fold it in half again like that. So both the little loopy areas are down here. And I kind of just straighten this out up here because this is going to be the top of the tassel. And I'm going to squeeze it together. But before I do that, I'm going to put a piece of yarn in between them. Like that. So make sure it's kind of equal, and that's going to tie that together. And just make sure it's equal on both sides. And just tie a knot. That's all you got to do. So keep that out of it. Now, I take it, kind of straighten these out a little bit. I'm going to grab another piece of yarn. I guess my tassel way is a little bit unorthodox, I guess, but this is always how I do it. Kind of looks like Cousin Ed off of the Monsters, don't it? And now I'm just gonna tie it together. Lay your string out. And go down a little ways and tie a knot. Tie it tight and then do it again. Tie it in a knot. And then I always take it and I wrap it a couple times with one string really tight. Keep these strings out of the way because that's what you'll sew it on with. That, and then I'll take my other piece and wrap it really tight the opposite way. And then I'll tie them into knots again. Like that. And then I'll just let them hang. And then I'll trim up all this where these need to be cut down here. I'll cut them because they're in loops still. So I'll just cut the loops open and then I'll trim it all off straight and I'll make them both about the same size. And then I'm just going to sew it onto my poncho. Now remember, you don't have to do these tassels. And you can use pom-poms too if you want. I'm not really a big fan of making pom-poms actually because I suck at it. So that's why I don't do it very often. I need to get a pom-pom maker. That's what I need to do. Just go ahead and get all these clipped off. Or the ones that are... Remember not to clip your top here. That's what we're going to sew it on with. So just kind of wrap it up in your hands. Now I take it and kind of comb it out again, best you can. And just trim up the bottom a little bit and get them all straight. That's it, and you just make them both the same. And then we'll sew them on. My scissors are dull again. But just like that, you get the idea. And then I'll show you how to put fringe on. If you want to put fringe, you don't have to, but you can. It's really easy to do. Okay, now to sew on the pom-poms or the tassels, I'm just going to sew them on right up here with my yarn needle. So I'm going to put both pieces of yarn that's through the yarn needle. Remember, this is always optional. You don't have to do this if you don't like the looks of it. But right here. See that little, where we started our first row? I'm going to sew it on just kind of right here onto that single crochet. I'm just going to pull it through, and I'm going to leave it hanging a little bit, a few inches or a couple inches or so, and then put through there. And then what I'm going to do is go on the back and sew it through the back side of it, so it's not really visible. Your sewing is not visible through the front, so you want to make sure you get it sewed good, kind of like you're sewing in a tail, I guess, but you want to make sure you do it really good so your tassel doesn't come off. Remember, we're sewing on the back so we don't see any sewings on the front. And then I like to take one out and sew it separate, or weaving in separate. Just kind of weaving it, that's what I'm doing. And then I'll do the same to this one, weave it separate. And then I'll take my other tassel and I'll sew it right here and about in the same place on the other side. See this little kind of a gap here that we first started? Probably sew it right here to this one. Or I'll pull it through this one and then sew it to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and get these sewed on. Now for the fringe, you can do it however you want. You can make like real thick fringe or thin fringe, or what I did is I took 2 pieces and I cut them about 8 inches probably. And then every other stitch is where I'm putting the fringe through. So I skip a stitch and then I come at it from the behind like that, and I grab my fringe, pull it through like that, put my fingers right here, and line these up to where they're about equal, and then grab them and pull them through. Just like that. So that makes 4 little fringes on each stitch. Of course, you can do more or less or none. It's up to you. I'll show you again. So I'm skipping 1 stitch and then going to the next one. Pull my hook up through the bottom like that and pull my fringe through. And hold it like that, and then get these 2 ends just about to where they're equal. And then pull them through like that. It's really easy. And then when I'm done with all that fringe, I'll trim it up to however short I want it. I might only leave it a few inches, I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep working on my fringe and get it all done. Okay, once you get it all done, your fringe on, that's it. That's all there is to it. It's finished. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to check out all my other tutorials. I have hundreds of them on YouTube. If you make this or anything else, I'd really like to see a picture of it. You can post a picture on the Bagoday Crochet Facebook page. I'll put a link to that below also in the description box. Also, don't forget to check me out on Instagram, and I'll put a link to that too. And until next time, have a good day.